Welcome to this class. In this class, what we want to do is we want to practice gerund phrases. And so we're going to learn how gerunds are used as subjects and also how they're used as objects. And you might have seen and you might be a little bit confused about this whole deal here. So, for example, whenever you see, like at hotels, you see no smoking, no parking, all that. You might think that that is wrong, but actually it's not. And then we're going to try to make sense of all of that here. So let me give you an example on how this is used. So we're going to talk a little bit about politics, a little bit, not going into details, of course, but just some general things about it. So running for office. Well, look at a couple of sentences here, and then just see some common things that politicians say whenever they're running for office. Well, the first thing is voting is an important responsibility. Um, Improving our schools, fighting for a new hospital, etc. So let me quickly outline that this is a gerund. So a gerund is simply a verb which you add ing to, all right? And then, of course, there's some spelling things about it that you might have learned in previous classes. But here are some examples on how gerunds are used either as subjects of sentences. So for example, voting is an important responsibility. Voting is the subject of our sentence, so it's not acting as a verb. Let's discuss improving our school. So as you can see there, we're using that as an object. And so let's try to make sense of all of this. A couple of more examples. Choosing a candidate takes time. And let me point out um, the gerunds here. So choosing a candidate, that's the subject of our sentence. I enjoy working for the people. Okay, that's working in that case is not acting as a verb, it's acting as the object of our sentence. Do you resent paying higher taxes? Again, paying is not the verb, is the gerund that is being used as an object there. So now that I gave a few examples on how gerunds are used as subjects and how they're used as objects, I would like to go into details now and talk a little bit about the usage of gerunds. And the first thing that I'm going to mention is that in this case, in this lesson, we're using gerunds as nouns. So we're using them as people, places, or things. And so we're familiar with the verb work, for example. And if we include ing, then we turn that into a gerund, right? But now we're going to use this gerund as either a subject of a sentence or as the object of the sentence. And that's what we're going to learn. So let's take a look at another gerund. So for example, the verb pay, we turn that into a gerund by simply adding ing, and then we have paying. Improve, and of course, there are some spelling things that you should have learned in previous classes. We remove that E, for example, then we add ing, and so we have improving. Let's go into some details now, and let's talk a little bit about gerunds, and particularly gerunds being used as subject of sentences. So on the screen right now, we can see that a gerund can be the subject of a sentence. And a couple of grammar rules to learn is that it is always going to be singular. It's always going to act as a third person. And so let's look at that. Voting is an important responsibility. Choosing a candidate takes time. And as you can see, those are subjects of sentences. And the idea here is that this is going to be singular. So we're always going to have a singular verb. Like in this case, voting is an important responsibility. We could say voting was or voting will be, but the idea is that it's going to be singular. And then the other example, choosing a candidate takes time. Again, choosing becomes the subject of our sentence, and so becomes a thing, not necessarily a verb. And then, of course, we need to follow that grammatical rule that we need to add s to that verb. When talking about this topic, it's important not to confuse the gerunds with the present progressive. So let me give you an example about that. If I express I'm voting today, really what I'm saying is that it's an action that is happening today, right? It could be in the future, by the way, as well, but I'll talk about that later. And on the other hand, voting is an important responsibility. So in that particular case, I'm using that as a present progressive form. On the other hand, I'm using that as a gerund. So I'm using that as the object of my sentence. And so there it's a verb, and the second example, it's the subject of a sentence. And so let me just give you a quick example of what I want you to do. So what is exciting for you? Okay. Well, windsurfing is exciting. Windsurfing is very exciting. Playing soccer is exciting. Going to the movies is exciting. So all of those expressions that you've heard in the past, and they don't quite make that much sense, they should make a lot more sense now. And so what I would like for you to do is to take that concept then and tell me what makes you laugh, what gives you a headache, what isn't polite, what is popular in your country, what destroys the environment, and what can be dangerous.
Alright teacher, let me try the first one. For me, watching comedy movies makes me laugh.
For me, learning math gives me a headache.
Using your cell phone in class isn't polite.
Playing basketball is popular in my country.
Burning fossil fuels destroys the environment. Not taking action on weapons of mass destruction can be dangerous.
Now let me talk about the last part of our class, and what we want to do next is we want to learn how gerunds can also be the objects of sentences. And so let me give you a few examples about that. So we heard politicians say, I suggest improving our schools. So as you can see, the suggest is our verb, and improvement becomes the object of our sentence. So it's no longer a verb. I enjoy working for the people. This is what politicians say. And what we want to do here is we want to use gerunds as objects. So they both enjoy. What do they enjoy? They enjoy watching the birds. And then you could have said different things. And so what I would also like for you to do is to try to make sense of all of this and try to complete this exercise. So I'll have my virtual students try this out. But I would also like for you to try this out as well. So this is quite easy.
Hi John, I need a ride to the airport. Would you mind taking me?
I don't mind taking you. I'm heading that way anyways.
Dad, can I go outside and play?
Have you finished doing your homework?
Why did Javier look so sad today?
I think he really misses being away from home during holiday.